Hello and welcome to Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. I'm JJ Flazanes, your host. Thank you for downloading today's show. Today's show is about uncovering your life purpose. It's one of two shows we have with Angie Schwartz, and I am sure you will enjoy it. Before we get to that, I want to thank you for being a subscriber to the Spirit, Purpose, and Energy podcast. And if you haven't already, I'd really love and appreciate if you could do a rating and review on iTunes. It's just helpful for other people searching shows to look at what other people who have listened to the show say and what you've gotten out of it. It'd be helpful for me to know. Obviously, you continue to download the show, and I appreciate that. But this just isn't about me putting out shows. It's about connecting with you. It's about bringing you what makes a difference in your life, and it's about connecting with you as a community, because the power, especially in this show, Spirit, Purpose, and Energy, I've got a lot of other shows, but this show especially is about like the collective energy that we all emanate and the power and the positivity in that high vibrating emotion and frequency that we can emit together to make real change. And speaking of real change, for those of you that have been on the show for a while, you may remember that we do a 30-day manifestation challenge. It's free, and we've got one coming up in September. It's a little bit different this time in terms of the focus, and I do try to change it up each time. And we're going to have some different audios and new things to have access to, and easier ways to get it. And you can even purchase some of them so you can keep them forever and ever and ever. And you don't have to just wait till I open up the challenge for you to have access to it. Anyway, if you're interested, check it out. It's fit2love.tv/30daym. So again, that's fit2love, F-I-T, the number 2, LOVE.tv/30daym. And it's free, like I said, and the next one's in September. And I'm not sure when the next one after that will be. There'll probably be one more this year in 2017, but September's the next, and maybe the last until next year. Who knows? We'll see what's going on this year. So again, thank you for downloading today's show, and I hope you enjoy every minute of it. Today's show, Uncovering Your Life Purpose. I think this is a very timely, needed topic. We have with us today Angie Schwartz. She's the founder of Life Purpose Advisor. She's a life coach and an executive business coach. Angie's mission is to empower people to find their life purpose and to improve personal mastery through knowing themselves, incorporating daily practices, and transforming their bodies. She believes that we all know our life purpose, but can't recognize it until the time is right in our lives. It is only when people align with their life purpose that they live truly happy, more fulfilled lives and contribute to the greater good. The foundation of this coaching is the Life Purpose Advisor methods. She is the host of the Life Purpose Advisor podcast, where she interviews spiritual leaders and difference makers about their life purpose paths, spirituality, and personal mastery. Welcome to the show, Angie.
I couldn't be more happier to be here. Thank you.
So I love what you're doing. I love your show. I loved being on your show. And I'm so glad that you're now on my show, because this is such an important topic. I have been noticing more and more the demographic of women between the ages of 45 and 65 who feel depressed, lost, unable to really get motivated about a lot of things in their life. And I think that the bottom line is life purpose, is that maybe they were moms and wives. And then when those jobs, especially the mother job, after being an empty nester, then you look around at that stage of life and you're not sure what to do with yourself. And so I really feel this is a strong message at this time for that demographic, especially for anyone who's dedicated their lives to being, again, the best wife or the best mother. And so especially for women, now I know that there are men listening to the show as well, but especially for you women, or if you know some woman who is really depressed and between the ages of 45 and 65, I would really absolutely, before we even do the show, recommend that you share the show with them so that they can hear what Angie has to share. And then possibly, this could literally shift their lives. So the first question about life purpose is, obviously you said that you believe we all can uncover our life purpose. It's just about a matter of timing. So speak to that a little bit.
Well, I believe that throughout our entire lives, we have little hints showing up to us about what our purpose is. but we don't put those patterns together until we're really ready to see it. And sometimes things come along in our lives, or almost every time something comes along in our lives, like you mentioned, like our children move out of our homes, our patterns shift, we get divorced, our parents pass on, we have an accident, we get an illness, something happens to help us take a deeper look at our lives. And in my opinion, those things are purposeful. Our lives are designed that way to make us wake up to our purpose.
And in the coaching and the work that you do with people, how often do you find that uncovering someone's life purpose or figuring it out and making it clear really shifts all other aspects of their lives?
Oh, 100% or more, if it's possible to be more.
Do people often come to you for life purpose? Or are they coming for other things, and then in the process that you uncover the life purpose?
Everyone comes to me because they're looking for their life purpose. But the work to be done is not always that we're working on finding their purpose to begin with. So I would say that 25% or less of my clients come in the door ready to start working on their life purpose. And the other 75% are here thinking that they're ready to work on their life purpose. But what they're really ready to work on are the issues that are standing in the way of seeing their purpose. And that could be anything from a childhood issue like sexual abuse to I haven't forgiven my parents for something terrible that happened, or not so terrible, just not forgiven something in the past. Or, as I mentioned before, I've gotten divorced and my whole life is changing and I don't recognize myself anymore. Or I've had a child and left a large corporate job, and now my identity is so much different than where I thought I was going with my life. Many different things like that. So that 75% of people are very interested in finding their purpose, but to be able to step up to that work, there are many gates sometimes to walk through to get there.
And when did you know your life purpose?
It's a really great question. Like, when did I know my purpose? When did my purpose start? Let me answer a different question first, and then I'll answer that one. My purpose started showing up, I think, around probably the age of adolescence, probably is when my purpose started showing up, or I started recognizing my purpose. I had no idea that was my purpose until about 10 years ago. And for me, starting to put the puzzles together, I left a corporate job in 2003 to take a sabbatical. And many, many things happened to start pushing me in the direction to the work that I was going to do. And I did many things in between then, and really understanding that my purpose was to do what I'm doing now, which came to light for me about 6 years ago. Now, I've been coaching and doing the work of my purpose longer than I've really known how big it was for me. But really, really stepping into those shoes of this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, I've probably known for that amount of time.
And so has your life taken you on sort of that transformative journey from something that was drastically different than what you're doing now? Or did it all sort of make sense piece by piece as it was building upon each piece to create the final outcome?
You know, my life is drastically different and drastically the same. So, and the reason I say that is I think this is true for anyone that wants to do the deep work that takes us towards our purpose. I'm essentially the same person that I've always been, but I'm also very much in the truth of who is me. So, and that's true for everyone. So we are who we are, but we get distracted by other things that come into our lives, our careers, our homes, possessions, travel, people, relationships. We get distracted by those things. And we go through growth periods where we stray a little bit from our essence, I would say. So I think I got lost a little bit from your initial question, but I think, for me, I said my life has been drastically the same and drastically different. So I'm much more living the truth of my life than I was before. And when I say my life is drastically different, how I spend my days is like night and day, if you will. So, for example, I used to be in a career, and this would have been before 2003, in a career very fast paced, very fast ladder climbing, high goals, workaholic life tendencies, work very hard, play very hard lifestyle. And I was happy with that. That was the goal. Now my life is much more balanced. I'm deeply ingrained in my spiritual practice, very committed to personal growth, very much in the day-to-day habit of that my practices, personal growth and spiritual practices are at the top of my list. And that my top goal is balance and being present for every moment. So from going from one to the other is a very big difference.
Absolutely. And did you have to hit a rock bottom?
I did hit a rock bottom for sure.
And in that rock bottom, did you have help and support? Was it your own spiritual journey that kind of showed you what you needed to do, or where the path was going to lead you?
Yes and yes and yes. I think you asked me three things there, but so my rock bottom was getting divorced was part of a big rock bottom, and really having what some would call a dark night of the soul, where I had to take a look at every piece of my life and get very honest about who I was and what I wanted in my life. And it was a very difficult time where, and not that I was living my life unethical before, because I wasn't, but when you get to the point where you're going to do this kind of work and asking deep questions about stepping up to a higher calling, there's work to be done and questions to be asked. So I had a lot of mentors. I've been studying with a spiritual teacher in a spiritual community for over 5 years now. I routinely participate in retreats. I just got out of a weekend retreat this past weekend. I do that at least twice a year. I take ongoing classes. I am very active in my church and have a deep practice in gratitude and in helping people around me. I became a prayer chaplain and do work in that area. So the list could go on. But during that dark night of the soul, so to speak, I spent a lot of time, introspective time, read lots of books, spent a lot of time with some mentors, did a lot of journaling, spent a lot of time in yoga, had some physical issues, changed my entire diet. Changed the way I worked out. I became very adverse to spending time in the gym. And I can't really explain that to this day, except that it was a big call to be spending more time in nature. So I had an aversion to spending time with weights and machines for a while. I'm kind of back to that. It doesn't bother me now, but for a while, I had to be outside. And on my podcast, which you mentioned, I interview people about this topic, and the stories that people tell about their transformations are amazing. And sometimes they're 12 years, sometimes they're 2 years, sometimes they're relatively easy, sometimes they're awful. So it's a very interesting time that people that are on big paths go through. And the reason I am so honest about this and say that is because some of your listeners might be going through a time like that where they just feel like they can't get it back together. And the thing to know in those moments is you're not alone, and it's for a great cause, and you have to be patient. You have to take care of yourself, surround yourself with people that you feel make you feel better and can help you see the truth of yourself, but know that it's not going to last forever.
But wouldn't you say also that some of that is a call to action for clarity? Yes, and part of the taking care of yourself is that searching out the clarity or uncovering that a little bit, because for a lot of people, I can think of a whole handful off the top of my head, again, mostly women, who don't even know what they're missing. They just are depressed and unhappy, and they don't have a lot of energy, and they're looking for things to do and creating drama so that they have something to do. So life purpose isn't even in their awareness.
That's right. And I think if you were to tell someone, if you were to talk to someone about a call to action, the vernacular might be too strong for them. Certainly, I agree with you. The places that I like to get people to start, someone that's depressed or going through a really difficult time in their life, is when we're feeling like a victim or we're in that place of feeling sorry for ourselves. What are some easy things that we can do to try to turn the ship around? Well, if you're feeling like your life, poor me, my life couldn't get any worse, I can tell you that's the worst thing to say, because your life indeed can get worse. So I always tell people, please don't put those words into the universe, but get outside and go help somebody else. Volunteer, find a place to be of service, because you'll see without a doubt that your life is not as bad as you think it is. Find some place to donate your time for a while, and start a gratitude practice. Like, start seeing the things, being grateful for what's right in front of you. And there will be things, like, we get to a place, and I speak with lots of clients that get to the place where life feels very dark, and depression can feel like a very real thing. But as you're pointing out, it's up to us. It really is up to us to turn that around and change our own lives, because we're in charge. Nobody else is in charge of our lives but us.
And take action, I totally agree with you, could sound definitely very like too much for somebody who might be in that position. And it isn't about necessarily taking action in a energetic way, but just taking that step to reach out and say, I think I need some help, or I think I need a vacation, or I think I need to stop working, or I think I need to eat better food, or I think I need a nap, or something like that. I think I need to find some joy, rather than just sitting in the I don't know anxiety and just continuing to sort of go down each path that leads you back to where you were, of frustration and feeling empty. And so I definitely want to address some of those symptoms that you think people who aren't really aware that it's a life purpose issue might be feeling. And then, of course, I do want to go over some tips for those who are ready to uncover their life purpose and what they can do to help themselves right now. But before we get to that, I do want to ask you another question about some of the methodologies that you use. And it's just because of my own curiosity.
Please.
On your show, you and I believe, talked about astrology a little bit. I know that you're a Scorpio. Yes?
I am.
Right. So I wanted to ask you, do you use anything like that, astrology, numerology, in your practice?
It's so funny that you're asking that. Can I just talk about something I just did and that's coming out?
Yeah.
I did this, and it'll be on my show shortly after this show is out. It's coming up to be my birthday, so it's a good time for you to be talking about astrology. So in celebration of that, I had someone come on my podcast and do a live reading, a live astrological reading of me, and I've never done anything like that, and it was a little scary to do that, but it's very interesting, and we stuck to kind of professional topics. But the results of that reading, it was traditional astrology, were so spot on that there is not anything better that I could be doing than the life purpose coaching work and mentoring work that I'm doing. So if you haven't ever had an astrology reading, I couldn't recommend it more. Like, who wouldn't want to hear confirmation that you're right where you're supposed to be in your life?
I use astrology for all my clients, and I've talked about it on the show. I have a True Node soul astrologer, hopefully coming on the show here in the near future, but it's just one of those tools that I use. And so I was just curious that because I believe it has information for us that you can just, some people don't believe in astrology. This show is on a Freedom Friday, so I get to talk about astrology today. But, between numerology, which fascinates me, I did a show on that too. And that's just really cool. And like you just said about the validation, it's another tool. You can take it or leave it, but sometimes I think it's really fun and interesting to dive into it and just find out if there's any information in there for you. So I was just curious if you used it.
I did. And since we were talking about women earlier, I'll just throw in a little tidbit, that something that we talked about that isn't in my show. Molly Morrissey is the person who did the reading for me. And she said, in private, she said, can I say something to you about romance? And I said, of course. And she said, I bet that what this chart says is that in every relationship that you've ever been in, you're always disappointed by men. And there couldn't be any more truth to that. And had I been in a place that I was in before doing so much spiritual and personal growth work, I might have not been able to look at that in such a positive light. But it's so true for me. And I'm not in a relationship right now, but when it comes to the point that I am, I know that that's for me, that things have to be different. And I have to look at the person that's in front of me and be able to say, I see you for all of your gifts, and I know that it's not that I'm not here to judge you or be disappointed by you, that's not the point at all. So it was very joyous and entertaining for me to hear that, and to have seen that in my own life. So just interesting. It's not about life purpose at all, but since you ask.
Don't you think it enhances some of that life purpose work, or at least, like you said, the confirmation and validation?
Absolutely. And it's just fun, because we're talking about a very serious topic, and I do very serious work with people, but I'm still human, right?
Yes, you are. And it's just fun to hear your interpretation and response to having your own chart done both personally and professionally. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. Now, we have to go to take a break to thank our sponsors, but when we get back, I do want you to give our listeners just 2 or 3 things they can start doing right now, right this minute, as they're listening to, or when the show is over. Hopefully they're not driving or working out, and they can actually sit down and do the work you're going to recommend that they do in order to start uncovering what their life purpose is. Now, obviously, the other choice is they can work with you and listen to your show and get help in other ways. But I definitely think you probably have some insight and wisdom to share with us that people can start working on right now. So we will take care of that when we get back.
Great.
Are you consciously using the law of attraction in your everyday life? How would you like some accountability and structure provided for you so you can easily start attracting more good into your life? Join us for the next 30-day manifestation challenge. Go to fit2love.tv/30daym. That's FIT, the number 2, LOVE.tv/30DAYM. 30-day M. Well, you'll be provided completely for free a 30-day packet including audios, instructions, and accountability in the form of a private Facebook group where we share our manifestations with each other every day, and we keep each other accountable for doing the work. Join us for the next 30-day manifestation challenge. Come on over to fit2love.tv/30daym. Okay, Angie, so I'm listening to the show and I'm curious and I want to uncover my life purpose. How can I start doing that for myself?
Oh, well, how much time do you have?
Well, just a few things to get me thinking, to get it percolating. So that way, when I get to the next place, maybe I can reach out and ask for further help. But is there anything I can do right now by myself?
Right. Of course. There are many things that you can do. So just briefly, the Life Purpose Advisor method has 4 modules, and they are Know Thyself, Transforming the Body, Practices and Rituals, and Be Mindful. And so we start with spending a lot of time on the Know Thyself module. And you mentioned this a little bit when we were talking earlier, but all the things that are available to us that we already know about ourselves is the place to start. So as I mentioned earlier, we've been getting hints about our life purpose our entire life. So in my self-study, which is free, which we might talk about later, the place that we start is let's go look at all the major events that have happened in our lives and the emotional message that each one of those have. So you might start by writing down the top 10 big events that have happened in your life and what those things mean to you. So that's number 1. The second thing is start by taking a look at what are all of the things that have been important to you over your life. And I'll give you some easy things to do with that. Let's start by thinking about what are all the books that have always been on your bookshelf? What are the records that have always been around, or the CDs? What kind of music have you always loved to look at? What kind of art have you loved to look at? What kind of sports? What kind of travel? What are the threads of your life that are consistent since you were born, that are still with you today? And they're there. You might have to look for them a little bit, but they're speaking to you already. The next thing to do is to go pull any feedback that you've gotten before in your life. So you have this already through any feedback that you've gotten on the job, any performance reviews, any feedback that you've gotten from friends, from loved ones, from spouses, from significant others, and pull that together. So what we're talking about doing is making a little portfolio for you of all the things that you already know about you. And the fourth thing is you can assimilate all the information that you have from tools that you mentioned earlier, like do I know anything about myself through personality analysis, like Strength Finder 2.0 is out there and doesn't cost very much to take right now if you haven't taken it. Have I taken Myers-Briggs through my employer? Have I ever taken DISC? Have I done anything with astrology, numerology, the Enneagram? Do I know anything about myself? And there are a lot of other personality tools that are available for free that you might have had access to. So add those to your portfolio and start reading these things like a book and see what you know about yourself. And then there's so much more to talk about, but those are the places to start. And just to tie a bow on that, I would say slow down, put some time in your schedule, think about what your practices are, and start journaling about this. Maybe put some time for breathing into your schedule. You don't have to adopt a big meditation or mindfulness practice, but maybe just 2 or 3 times in your day, put into your schedule to take a break and take some breaths and think about what's important to you.
So you mentioned a little bit earlier that you had your 4 modules and something that was for free. So why don't you now tell people who are going to take these great suggestions and start working on them, how to get in touch with you and utilize the tools that you already have for them, both free and to work with you either one-on-one or in a group or get your materials?
I'd love to. So you can find all about me at lifepurposeadvisor.com. You can also find us at facebook.com// Life Purpose Advisor. And as JJ mentioned earlier, you can listen to our podcast or my podcast for free on iTunes. You can get there via lifepurposeadvisor.com/iTunes. It's also available on Stitcher Radio and Spreaker. At lifepurposeadvisor.com, on the front page, there is a free self-study, and it's on the right-hand corner. You just go there and put in your name and your email address, and you'll get our self-study. It's 7 lessons that come to you every few days, and you'll start on this process that we talked about. And for that process, it's meant for people that aren't really ready to start doing coaching work, but they're curious and they want to start doing some things on their own. And for people that take that route, I offer just a really small little coaching program. I think it's 3 sessions. It's meant to be very affordable. I think it's 3 30-minute sessions for $198 or something very inexpensive that you'll see out there too on the website. But there are all kinds of ways to work with me. They're somewhat tailorized to what someone needs, but you'll see lots of those programs on the website. And there are also group classes that run different times during the year. But the best way to understand those things are to just get in touch, send an email or give us a call, and I can talk to you about what you're looking for and where you're at in the life cycle of finding your purpose. As we talked about earlier, some people are ready to dive right into the work. And as you mentioned, some people are kind of lost. And I do much healing work and energy healing and many other things that help people along the path. So I work with people that are going through difficult times. And that, in my opinion, is the wake-up call to get ready to look at your purpose.
Absolutely. So if you are struggling on any of these levels that have been mentioned, definitely reach out to Angie. Get your free self-study guide, get on her podcast, contact her, take advantage of those 3 sessions. I would say life purpose, especially for women, has not been talked about enough, and especially anyone in that, again, demographic I mentioned earlier, because of, again, life changes and you get to that place in your life and you're like, now what? So if nothing else at that point in life, it's really, really important to feel purposeful and to have that relationship with yourself and the rest of your life. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to do the show today. So thank you, Angie, so much for being here.
My pleasure. And if we have time, can I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
I'll just say that I have never been more in love with my life. And I know that for all of you listening, that you can be there too.
Excellent advice and something to look forward to. So I hope that's a little bit of inspiration for all of you. Again, thank you, Angie, for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you again for tuning in to Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. If you're inspired and want more, come on over to fit2love.tv and check out our Freedom Fridays or find us on iTunes. More at Fit to Love, physical, emotional, and spiritual fitness for the happy life you deserve.